I've been talking with acupuncturists from around the world, and what I keep hearing from everybody is the same story, is that they're graduating from acupuncture school. And this is like even true of people graduating out of China, that they're not confident. They don't feel sure about how to treat in clinic. They don't have any mentorship afterwards. And I think that's really leading to our really high attrition rate. Like we have a 70% attrition rate at 10 years. It's really high across the globe, right? And so my hope is that this conversation can at least start some conversations on a broader aspect of what's failing acupuncturists in the system. And more importantly, what we can do to change it on individual scales. Because we're all, besides Michael and myself, Michael and I are both in the US, but everybody else is like literally in different countries or in different continents, right? Which I think is super cool about this roundtable. So with that, I'm gonna shut up because I talk about a lot. And I would love, like, tell me your thoughts from everybody. Let's start then with Michael, just because Michael, this kind of conversation really started with you when we were doing that last recording. Like, what do you see talking to these people on the podcast and understanding where our education is? Like, what do you see let's start with what do you think the main issue is in education right now for acupuncture?
In some ways, I'm not the right person to ask that question. And the reason I'm not the person to ask that question is because I'm not involved in any schools. I'm not involved in any school curriculum. I've never supervised at a school. Once I left school, I never really went back in terms of working on curriculum or teaching. I'm not really involved in that system. I never have been. And some of that is probably mostly due to my personality and, um, which we don't need to get into. But where I have found kind of a niche or an interest for myself is working with people postgraduately. So even from pretty early on, I was running like CEU classes, and especially after I'd come back from China and I'd met some people and learned a few things, I started doing postgraduate kinds of things. And I see the podcast as in some ways a natural extension of that impulse for one to be helpful to the profession, also just for myself to follow my own interests with the medicine because it's so phenomenally fascinating. I'm always a little bit confused when people say, "Oh, I've got to renew my license and I don't have enough CEUs. I got to go take some quick CEUs." And I always think to myself, how's that possible? Like, how can you go 4 years without being curious about something?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, maybe that's an issue with our profession.
Just the CQ
I don't,
the
yeah,
renewal, you mean?
like how can you not be curious about the medicine? How can you not be wanting to learn more all the time? But different people work in different ways. At any rate, I don't really have a background in the educational system. I'm not part of any of the associations or organizations that do credentialing.
Yeah.
Um, so I can't really speak to it because I'm such an outsider in that way. Now, when I, one of the things I've been hearing lately and this is from meeting some newer practitioners, the amount of Western medicine that is now being taught in the schools and being tested for at the national level is ridiculous. I mean, I'm not saying we shouldn't know something about conventional medicine. We should.
Mm-hmm.
But the level that it's being trained up at in service of integration
Yeah.
into the conventional system, many people are really aiming at that. And so I think that weakens the Chinese medicine piece of it, the East Asian medicine piece of it.
That's an interesting perspective. I mean, like, James, you're in the schools right now, teaching in London, right? Do we,
Yes, at City College, where I also trained.
yeah.
Um, and with that, it's also accredited by BARB, which is attributed to the British Acupuncture Council. And through the accreditation, we have certain requirements. Um, at the moment, I'm going through the last of an 8-week block teaching as a supervisor in the clinic setting for third years. It's their last year. In the UK, we just do acupuncture on its own, so that's why it only requires 3 years, because we don't do all the other elements of all the other branches of Chinese medicine. So within that, at the end of each block, I started this last week. The last day is Thursday this week. They have to write down any area that they feel that they need to improve on, and how that they would do that. This is what they do in every quarter going throughout the whole year. And if they decide to become a member of the British Acupuncture Council, then they will continue this every year as part of their ongoing training. In the UK, we call it CPD, but it's the same as what you are talking about. And I personally find it really, really useful having some kind of goal, knowing areas that I really want to improve on. And I've kind of explained this to the students, because they were asking why do they need to do it. But I've found that by nurturing areas that they can help improve, or even they enjoy it and they want to go down one route and learn more about it. But to allow a nurturing aspect or a curiosity or an area, and not to take as a negative something that they are not so good at. For me, I found moxa scary when I left, because we only use a stick. And I wanted to make sure that I didn't experience this as a student. But what I did is I actually decided to train further in that, and I'm still doing that now. I have met someone who, this was only this year, she'd just finished her 20 years and retired, and she told me that the last training post grad was about 10 years ago, and she'd only just retired, and she hadn't done anything at all. I just thought, wow, what
Well,
you, I mean, it's personally, I don't think she was a member of the BAC, so yeah.
I mean, but I think it brings up a really good point because, so for example, in Japan where I trained, you don't have continuing educational credits in order to continue your license. And I believe, Oskar, it's the same for you in Poland, right? Because
Yeah.
acupuncture isn't a recognized, right? But what ends up happening instead is you, and perhaps it's a cultural thing, that you find a study group and you study with that study group for most of your practice until you feel like you're very solid in your practice. But most practitioners that I know of studied for 20 years with a teacher before they went out on their own post-education. And they have no reason to do it. Other, like my license I've had in Japan since I got my license. I've never had to reapply. I've never had to
Hmm.
repay, and I don't know what the system is, Michel, in Mexico, but I think, to is the CEU or the PDA system, whatever you want to call it, this recertification system, really serving acupuncturists post-graduation in the way that we would hope, right? As you were saying, Michael, like, how could you not be interested to learn more, right?
Mm.
But we definitely have acupuncturists who are not taking PDA courses, who are deciding not to redo their licensure in whatever facet that they have. And then we also have people who are graduating from acupuncture school. I know of many just off the top of my head who are like, I don't feel confident in practicing this medicine post-education, and they just don't even do the job, you know?
So I want to put a pin in this because I think it's important. And James, you alluded to it. I really love encouraging people to look at not just what did I learn, but where do I need to focus some more? I think it's really important.
Mm.
At least here in the United States, most people go into an education of any sort expecting, I'm going to go to class, you're going to teach me, I'm going to come out competent.
Hmm.
It's like kids that go, like here in high school, kids can go to a competition of some sort, and everybody gets a damn trophy. Like you get a
Yeah.
trophy for showing up. But here's the thing, in life you don't, right? In life you have to put in some effort. And in life there are winners and losers. And when it comes to education, just showing up and like going through and getting your doctorate or whatever, all right, that's one piece. But the other piece is, are you somehow mentally and emotionally equipped
Yeah.
to actually take this on? Because no one's going to really know what they're doing until you're in more than a handful of years. Now, the school that I went to purposefully kept us a little bit on the edge of like not quite feeling we were competent. Not because we weren't, but because you have to be comfortable with uncertainty. You have to be comfortable with doing exactly what James is asking his students. Find the edges where you don't know.
Mm.
And this is uncomfortable for all of us because we want to feel like we're competent. How do you lean into what you don't know and still have enough wherewithal that I'm okay and I can do this work? That's a tricky thing to train.
Mm-hmm. No, I'd agree.
And and I think Maya, what you're talking about with the education in Japan, there is a culture of study that says you're in this for the long term. A degree is your learner's permit. You're in this for the long term. And at least here in the States, people get their degree. It's like, I'm a doctor now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, you're not. I mean, yes, you are on paper, but no, you're not in your clinic. And and that's not something that's wrong with people. That's a piece of the process. So for me, how do we both hold people, support them, but in commensurate fashion, like James is doing, challenge them.
Mm.
You have some capacity and you can make it better.
I mean,
Breaks my heart to hear about that person who retired after 20 years.
seriously.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
I figure after 20 years, I'm at it 25 years now. I feel like I'm just starting to get my swing,
Yeah.
you know?
Wow.
I mean, Michel, how do you feel about it? Because I know most of the people you're working with are doctors, right? And then they've come into acupuncture as like a additional part of their education. Is that right?
Yeah. Um, but I think mostly it's like we're a small group. This is like a niche activity, I think, all over the world, even if it's uh, even in Japan, like no many people like go to acupuncture. It's like a very niche practice. So you have to make yourself some kind of different or more well prepared or some kind of style that make you differentiate from others. But I think in Mexico, what happens is it's still viewed as a very foreign thing that only a few people has a grasp for the real meaning or the real training. Like people went to, as myself, went to China to train and learn the language, and now with Japanese acupuncture, like not many people talk can be able to read that it's something that is into belief system. Like if the translator says that's what the teacher said, I just write it down and take a jump of faith. So it's very for my confidence. If I'm thinking about other practitioners, their confidence is not very sure they have all the spectrum of knowledge or technical skills, and in front of the patient you feel like unarmed, and to guide them, to guide the patient, and to say to them what to expect of the treatment, because it's every day is a new diagnostics, a new treatment, a new manipulation. So that uncertainty, I think, what drives people to join different groups and listen to different approaches and visions. So I think we can take advantage of that. Uh, but at the same time, if you try to give a complete structure, you make them very not very active on their own process. And I think that's where Japanese acupuncture differentiate from the academic way of TCM teaching and learning. And at the same time is a problem of Japanese acupuncture, that you have to be trained and coached on everyday basis. It's not something that you can go to a seminar and then you integrate that into your practice. So it's, as many authors and people, this is a journey, and you have to be comfortable in the learning process that is frustrating and you feel lonely. I think that on your usual mailing about all the feelings you have, like when you're practicing, and how maybe ShinKyu is the answer to that, but still you don't know if that's the way or that's the path, because you don't. It's not a curriculum you see on a university or a postgraduate program that you see. You will learn this during the process. It's a 3-year process, and after that you will be able, like a competence way of skills and development. This is like more, you take what you get and you develop your own personal practice, but sometimes that feels insecure, that is, I'm doing it correctly. I read this, did I interpret it correctly or not? And this is a continuous question. And then you guys, Michael said, you have to be comfortable with that uncertainty. I think that's the main problem.
Education is then like not setting people up, giving people too complete of a system. Then would you guys think that that's what's happening right now with TCM education, that it's giving too complete of a system and not allowing for that free form thought? Or is it not setting them up to have that free form thought?
I think more the second. But I think, I mean, I have to say that my only experience is through City College, because that's where I trained and that's where I teach. And there's a few ways of looking at it. So there's the system put in place for getting to the diagnosis through the 8 principles within TCM is really, really helpful. And I know we've spoken about this before. It can be applied to different styles and also Japanese acupuncture, but it's also following the going from diagnosis to treatment principle to points. I know that's slightly different, very different to the approach I take now with Japanese acupuncture, but it's drilled in at City College from the first year right through to the end. So it does allow that to follow all the way through. I don't know what it's like elsewhere. I quite like it because it fits with my mind. And I don't know whether that, I mean, for me, I think that works, but I don't know what it's like outside that environment, because I don't know any other than what I've experienced with you, Maya. That's all that I know, really.
Well, I mean, same. I mean, I only know what not all of you have learned with me, but I only know what I was taught in school as well. And it's such a different approach to the medicine, how I was taught and how I experience other people being taught in TCM schools, including the one that I teach at here in Colorado, that it's just, it's something that I still don't think I've gotten my head fully around, and what's really failing these practitioners to be the best that they can be. Right? I mean, Oskar, so there isn't like a centralized acupuncture training in Poland, right?
Yeah, I mean, talking about TCM, however, TJM, Japanese acupuncture is fresh. I'm the pioneer in Poland. Nobody ever done this before me here. So I'm all about setting standards, how it should be done in future. Right now, it's all like private courses. So I'm really listening to all of you with great interest, really valuable, extremely valuable for me. As far as I'm concerned, and how I see it, it's like the knowledge is not a problem right now. Talking also about TCM, because as those pictures say, we drown in information while striving for wisdom. So I feel it that way. Wisdom only comes with the experience. And what acupuncturists lack the most right now in Poland, especially, is practice. Just
Yeah.
it's not enough practice, not enough mentorship. Every time that I teach TCM practitioners, acupuncturists from Poland, they all the time I have this. Replies that they have never ever practiced so much before on their during their TCM studies or classes or something, because my classes are as much as possible practice. You know, we start needling as soon as possible, touching, palpating channels, doing fukushin, doing ampuku, experiencing, because I was taught by my sensei that the only way to learn this is through your hands. So I try to switch off the mind and switch on the hands. You know, this is my style right now.
I think that brings up a really good point that, I mean, I 100% agree with. I'm really curious about what Michael and James feel about this because of, working in the schools and teach and, working with so many other practitioners across the globe, Michael as well. But like my education was so centered on what I was feeling in my hands and not what I was thinking in my head that that's I think the biggest glitch moment I have between TCM practitioners and what I was trained is like I'm like, well, of course what do you feel? What do you see? What do you feel? And they're always like, well, the patient says this, so they're obviously in liver yang rising. Like it's a very theoretical
Yes. Well,
aspect of
I
training.
think there's a good reason for this. And the reason is standards.
Mm,
The reason is because the schools, while ostensibly, hopefully, they're going to teach people enough about practice that they get something in their hands. They get something in their experience. They have something in their head, something in their hands, hopefully, something in their heart as well. But mostly, I think what the schools do is they're trying to teach to the test. They're
mm,
teaching to the test.
yeah.
And the test came about from books that came from China back in the 70s. And the structure of getting a license in the United States, unless you're in the state of California or the state of New Mexico, I think they've got their own exams. But if you're getting a license certificate or a whatever diploma, whatever they call it, you get a piece of paper from the NCCOM. All the schools are teaching to a test. They're teaching their people to pass the test. And that is primarily TCM. It's primarily a scholarly, there's a flow chart. Oh, they have this pulse and this tongue. It's this diagnosis. It's not necessarily wrong, right? As James was talking about, the 8 parameters is a useful way of parsing experience and trying to understand. It's not wrong. It's just not complete,
Mhm.
right? It's a piece, and I think the schools very much are striving to give people a sense of certainty. You see this pulse, you see this tongue. This is the problem. Again, the school I went to was, we're going to teach you a flow chart. They said this. They actually said this. They said, we're going to teach you a flow chart. Don't you dare put your patients in a box. You
That's
need this flow chart for the test. We're going to teach it to you so you pass the test. But
yeah.
in clinic, it's only marginally useful.
I mean,
Most schools don't teach that way. Most schools are
yeah.
like, this is reality. And I
Hmm.
think that's a piece of the problem. So people get out, and look, TCM can be helpful 20, 25% of the time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and then we also have this compounded problem. I mean, I don't know if this is true, James, for you and Oscar and Poland as well, but like in the US, schools are dropping like flies. I mean, our schools are shutting down at alarming high rate
Yeah,
here in
yeah.
the US. And, with that, I have students right now who are in different acupuncture schools across the country, and every one of them are saying the same thing. Every one of them are saying we're really dissatisfied with our education. It's very theoretical. We don't feel like we're going to be able to graduate and actually treat a client. And we're scared to death that our school is going to close down and we're going to lose all our money and not be able to graduate and actually practice, you know? I mean, so, it's another layer to that issue. But like, James, is that happening for you guys in England as well, where schools are shutting down?
It's happened, but that's plateaued. So we had in London, I think, 4 accredited colleges or universities, and now there's just City College. And City College used to be at another location. We used to be called the LCTA, and don't ask me what that stands for, but that closed and then moved and then became the CCA. But we had Westminster, Middlesex, so Westminster University, Middlesex University. We had the LCTA, and I'm sure there was one more. But now it's just City College, so as far as accreditation, there's like I think 4 or 5 in the whole country, but this is the only one which is really kind of more central. And I think there was another one somewhere in the north that closed as well just a year or 2 ago. So it has reduced right down. And at the moment, I know that City College is okay, but nothing can ever be secure forever.
Yeah.
I think that for me, the main thing is trying to make sure that the students get high quality. So that's all I'm thinking about when I see my students. And none of them ever speak to me and worry about whether the college is going to close or not. It's normally what is it going to be like when they graduate, and they normally. So last year I taught so at the moment I'm teaching the first block. Last year I taught the last block. So the last year they were talking more about this than they are right now, because right now they're only thinking about the week after next they'll be in block 2. But they were worried, and I just said to them that confidence is something that can go up and down, and this happens at different moments, and they need to know that that it can improve, but it can also wane, and it can go up and down depending on lots of factors: how they are doing with their clients, how many clients they have, personal things that's happening. And I've experienced this, and sometimes you do feel like you are on your own when you leave. And I think because I'm right in the southeast of England, and there's not that many acupuncturists here. Where there is now one just across the road, but there wasn't anyone here for the time I've been here so far. And it does sometimes feel a little bit lonely. And I know you were talking about mentorships. I think having a mentorship is one of the things that's really, really helped me stay on a really kind of steady rudder, and having a direction, having someone point out where I need to make any changes. And I think that's sometimes what people need, is just other people around them when they finish, and people that can reinforce and help push them in a direction, but also give them confidence as well. You get it from clients, but not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need colleagues to help and give you advice, and also tell you that what you're experiencing is normal. This is what I did, or something like that. So yeah.
Oskar, would you agree that that's what's happening in Poland?
Poland is a funny country, because I like to call it a country of people with destroyed livers or destroyed wood element, So many people are really frustrated, really angry, not really keen on sharing knowledge or experience. So, James, what are you talking about? Maybe I can find some colleagues on the other side of the street or in my city, but nobody really wants to cooperate, Once I discovered Japanese acupuncture 10 years ago, I was like, wow, let's do something together. I cannot do it by my own. So I was writing to some schools, TCM schools, my friends from other medical specialties, and talking about, hey, maybe we can do it together. I can do manual things. Maybe you can do some herbs. Maybe someone about more children treatment or something. Nobody was really interested, like everybody is minding only their own business. And the first question is always how much money I can get out of it. So
Yeah. I mean, I
this
would
is the
say
issue.
but it's funny because when I first moved back to the States, I tried to get like a community thing happening here in Colorado where I'm at. And I got very few people who would even come on and as a community just to come together as acupuncturists to talk because they didn't want to, it's very catty, actually. Like they're afraid of losing their clients. I mean, I see Michael,
Yeah.
you shaking your head, but like I was really surprised by that. I don't see, I had never experienced it before moving back to the States.
Yeah, see, I'm not surprised by that because I think that's emblematic of I'm not sure what I'm doing. I don't have confidence in what I'm doing, and so anybody else is a threat, as
Mhm.
opposed to, oh, you got something I don't have? Well, that's really interesting.
Mhm.
I'd like to know more. So, oh, you have something I don't have? Oh, you've got an edge up on me,
Mhm.
in the marketplace of acupuncture. And I think a lot of us at least in the United States, in the Chinese East Asian medicine world, we don't know much about business. We don't have
Yeah.
a high opinion about businesses, and yet here we are running a business. So there's some real contradictions
Yeah.
that folks have. It's like, well, I think it's bad to make money, and I think it's bad to have a business. I don't want to be a capitalist, but hey, man, you got to be a capitalist and ideally a generous one, and you'll
Yeah.
do really well. Because not only will you do well, but you can help your community.
Yeah.
And when you help your community, I don't know, I just think good things happen. At least that's what I've seen with the podcast,
Mhm.
right? It generates. I mean, Oscar, I hear what you're saying, and it reminds me listening listening to some of the teachers that I had when I was in China, and especially when they talked about things historically, that there'd be like, one clan of doctors here and another clan of doctors there, and they were like in fierce competition. Like, we're the Jingfang school. Yeah, well, we're the Shifang, and we're modern. We know what we're doing, and you guys, Wenbing, Shanghai, there's always these kinds of things. But I think there's a middle road. I think there's a way of connecting people,
Mhm.
you know, but it's tricky.
But I think that like that really comes full circle in like what acupuncturists are really missing out of their education. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've said that we're missing business education in
Totally.
in the acupuncture field. Like chiropractors here in the US at least get so much business education. I do not know a chiropractor here in the US who is not part of a business coaching program for their clinic. I do not know
Mhm.
one at all. And I know a lot of chiropractors. I know of many acupuncturists who don't have business coaches or don't make a lot of money or are struggling to pay the bills, because of this. And I think, but this lack of community, lack of confidence in your treatment out of school, lack of mentorship to give it to you as you continue through your education, and then this kind of almost like monk-like perspective of, well, I'm an acupuncturist, and so I should be giving away my medicine, and therefore I can't eat, but then I get drained and I can't feed my family. I can't take a vacation. This is the situation that compounds and then creates acupuncturists who eventually leave the field, at least in my mind. And if that's the case, and to your point about Qiological, I definitely see that ShinKyu is not an NPO. ShinKyu University is definitely a for-profit organization. But
Hmm.
I have seen it change people's lives by changing their practices. Being able to all of a sudden afford to pay their bills simply because they're getting more clients in the door, you know? But I mean, I think it comes full circle in saying, okay, there's a lot of problems right now with the educational system. It is doing a lot of things right, but there are a lot of problems. So what can we do? Because I think the consensus then becomes that I don't think we're going to change the educational system that people are learning. I don't know if you guys think you can.
I look, I
I don't
have
know if I
no
can.
interest in even being involved in that kind of thing because I'm just not interested in organizations.
Yeah.
I've always been kind of like at the edges of things.
So then what can we do? I mean, I think then what ends up happening is this is a post-education, post-graduation
I think it is.
issue to
I
solve,
think it is.
and then how do we approach that to our industry and how do we help convince people, like James was saying, the 20-year-old profession, 20-year in professional who hasn't gone to a class in 10 years, you know? How do we convince these people that they need mentorship or they need something to help continue their job? Or do we even do that? You know?
I think it depends on your level of passion and how much dedication the particular practitioner has. Will depend on how much training. I mean, I'm now going to talk about myself. I'm always looking for the next thing that I want to learn, or the next course, or the next book, or this or that. It all depends on, I think, the inner fire that people have, and sometimes it takes someone else to be around someone else to be inspired about doing things. I was just at a conference for multi-beds called ACMAC at the weekend, and it was so inspiring. I don't do multi-bed. It's impossible to do that with why I actually know Michi, but I want to support them, that they support me, and I think they're a great group of people. And just being around them, just seeing all the knowledge there, treating cancer. Uh, we're in the Dimbleby. We're basically in a hospital in London. That's where it was being held, and it was really, 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 really inspiring. And I could see that people were talking to each other, and actually, I realised I need to do more qigong. I had Peter Deadman doing qigong in the morning, and I was just like, I'm too stiff. I know I've got poor circulation. I can feel my fingers tingling, different ones depending on where my arms are, and all of these things. Um, so I know I need to do something about that. But I think it depends on mindset as well. So that is my mindset, but everyone's not me, and I think it takes to be around other people to be inspired, like I was over the weekend. Um, so I think community and groups may be a thing a theme I keep on hearing people saying or alluding to in this conversation.
Mhm.
Mentorship is being in a group.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah.
Michel, I mean, you just finished the Congress. Do you think that I mean, how much, I think it's a really good question to ask. Like, yes, having groups where people can mentor, having congresses, things like this, having study sessions on weekends. This is what our community does right now to try to instill further learning. And yes, I do think it does work. Do you feel like, Michel, like you get the impact with your Congress and with things like that you want to get? Or is there something, like, is this the best? Is this what we do? Is this the model that we use? Is there something else?
Mm, of course, we would love to have like a rock star concert, like everybody is full of like eager for more, and where do I sign today for the next step, and go forward. Uh, Sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes it's very inspiring. But when you go to these seminars and a group of people, sometimes you only need one little thing that clicks into you to that particular moment to start your mind growing and looking for some, because I presented this Japanese friend of mine that is a practitioner. It was the first time for a lot of people to hear about Japanese acupuncture. And what confuses me a bit is that they were not actually listening what they say. They just wanted to buy the special needle that he has, and they just wanted to let me see the technique you're doing with your hand. Okay, I understand that, and believing that they only have to translate that to their practice, and that would be that's it. So I think there's many layers on this, and people get maybe just show off with there are people that are teaching. They are only making profit of showing fancy techniques and stuff, and they are selling like mirrors, and afterwards you don't believe in other forms of education because of that. So it's kind of like a vicious cycle in certain ways, and also a positive cycle in other ways. And as I agree with James that maybe our job is to keep sharing and inspiring, like we are maybe special people in the sense that we are like always looking what else how to complete your practice, how to understand properly a problem, or just the love of reading and being fascinating. But all this ancient history just arrived to today and work it on that particular patient. So it's baby steps. I think we are like, as Westerners, we are like feeling always looking for how to solve things and getting growing anxiety. I think it's a trap for us. Like today, we are like at least worried about how to share, how to promote, but that has a feeling behind of being anxious about our own work teaching, or being someone that other people can refer on to you. So I think it's positive that we can reunion and start thinking this. We are practicing a model of getting together, and many heads thinks better than one. And we are about to share some other teachings in a few months, like I think in Poland, in Mexico, in London, and everywhere else. And we are eager to know when is the next trip to Tokyo to be close to these teachers that you have introduced to us. Because when we are together with those groups, we get this sense of like it's on a trip. We are together on this, and we don't know what's going to happen. We're sharing the adventures one in front of the other. So,
I mean, I think that I really love how you said that there's layers here. And the first thing that came up for me, like we are in a 2,000+ year old history medicine. Like we are in the first crawling step of it here in the West. Like, and that's true for all of us in the West, right? And I think you're 100% right that there's 100% on my part as well. Like there's a lot of continual questioning of, is this the right way to spread this medicine? How do we honor this medicine more? Is this the right way? Can we do any better to continually do it? And I think that there's something to be said too, that, this is an organic medicine that's developed very organically, but also with a lot of systems in place, and then how do we as Westerners with our brains very, I would say, more systematic than less, and maybe less organic, perhaps, like how do we integrate this organic piece of, like, going back to what Michael, as you were saying, like constantly being on that edge and being okay with feeling uncomfortable. right? Being okay with feeling uncomfortable with the diagnosis and
Mm.
being able to continually nurture that. And at the same time, bringing in the structure that I think all of our minds really need, being raised outside of, Asian cultures, you know, how do we complement that? What's the next layer? What do you guys think is the next phase of learning? Because I honestly think, at least in the US, we're in this really interesting transition where like acupuncture as a licensure is either going to die out or we're going to be absorbed into kind of the dry needling situation, which I know is happening in a lot of countries in Europe where you have to either be a doctor or a nurse. And it's happening as well in Brazil. There's a lot of countries around the world that Singapore, not Singapore, sorry, Indonesia, also the Philippines, like you have to be a doctor to do this medicine for the most part. Is that on the is that the road we're on? What's the next phase, do you guys think?
Yeah, for me, the big advantage is having, for example, Teishin or Shonishin in that situation, while if needling would be forbidden, then we are still in the game, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I tell to my students, that this is really the privilege of our techniques, that we will never be count out. Because
Mm.
we can do manual techniques. For example, the big the big effect on my students I have through just palpating the channels. You know, I call it for my need mm, therapeutic meridian massage, TMM. You
Mm.
Yeah.
know, and I only teach them to touch the channel point by point and going through all the channels on the one sequence. And it's like so much practice for them and so good result of harmonizing at the one set that it's like it's enough just for
Mm.
one action, you know. The next action can be just working on one point with the teishin or just touching needle, no insertion. What's the problem? You know, so I think it's big advantage of Japanese approach, and I think we should really put an accent on that and something to be really proud about.
Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Michael? Do you feel like our industry is moving kind of in the way of Oscar? Like I'm seeing this. I have a lot of people who are interested in joining my program from Poland, and a lot of them are going to nursing school right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're afraid that they're not going to be able to continue their licensure.
Well, yeah, again, I'm not involved in that world so much. What I do see, increasingly people want to be able to work in an integrative setting, maybe
Mhm.
work in a hospital or a multimodality clinic, and they need to have their doctoral degree and they need to have, their modicum of Western medicine and, all that. I still think the vast majority of jobs for acupuncturists are in our own clinic with our own business.
Yeah.
And so that piece about embracing business, looking at it not as something I have to do, but something I have the great privilege to do. I get to build my own life the way I want it. How
Mm.
lucky is that, right?
Mhm.
So some of it's a mindset, and I'm not talking about the chiropractor, like, crank them through and, rack them and crack them and make a lot of money. I'm
Mm.
talking about a particular mindset, like a gardener or a forester would take care of their landscape. A
Mm.
business person takes care of their landscape, right? There are ways of talking about this. I'd like to see more of that. But again, I think I think most of this is postgraduate.
Mm.
And look, some people just aren't that curious, or they got their doctoral degree. It's like, well, look, I've got a doctorate in Chinese medicine. I got a doctorate in acupuncture. So I should be the one who does acupuncture because I've got a doctorate. I got the education. And here's the deal. If the guy down the street doing dry needling after a month of training is getting better results than the person with the doctorate, you need to rethink what your doctorate's worth. Just because you got 3 years of training, it doesn't mean anything, because here's the deal. And again, I don't think this is a bug, it's a feature about capitalism, of which I'm a fan, actually. The marketplace will shake you out. If you don't have what it takes, because you don't have the fortitude, you don't have the training, you don't have the gumption to say, oh, I don't understand this yet, I need to learn more.
Yeah.
If you don't take that on, the marketplace will shake you out. Bye-bye.
I mean, and
I don't
maybe,
think that's necessarily a bad thing, because it will either motivate people, which would be good, or maybe they're just not cut out for the job. I know that sounds harsh.
but it's so true. I see the acupuncture school here in Denver, and I'm not throwing any shade to it because I'm so excited it's still open, honestly. But, what I do see is a little bit going back to what Michel was just saying of like, here's Twina, here's something shiny, buy the tool, learn the technique, move on. Here's this, here's that. And they're teaching things very much like that. But then this other piece that they're letting in people who, like, there's no screening process to who they're letting into the education. And that
I
sounds
know. That's been a
extremely
problem for the
harsh.
past 25 years.
Yeah, and I hate saying that because there's some people who are going to come in and are like, I just came in on a whim and like, here's me 50 years later, still doing it, And there's something to be said of that. And at the same time, there's a lot of people coming in. I remember I was teaching one person in a moxa class here at the school because I teach very few classes. And I was like, why are you here? Like, what brought you here? And he was like, well, I only want to get an acupuncture license so that way I can open up multiple clinics and run it as a business model. I want to create like a McDonald's for acupuncture. And I was like, that's great, but you don't need to be here to do that. I mean, Oskar, you're laughing, but at the same time, like, I think it comes back to what Michael, you said so beautifully that, there's an organic aspect to our medicine that we have to embrace to be really, really good at this medicine, in my opinion. Like this organic aspect of really creating, planting your trees and creating your forest. And like, if you're just going to make McDonald's,
Look, if you want to make McDonald's, I don't want to make McDonald's. That's
I
not
don't need it.
interesting to me. But if somebody wants to, this is one of the things. So there was actually, these went out of business recently here, but it was kind of a McDonald's of acupuncture. It was
Yeah.
called modern acupuncture.
We had one down the street from me right here.
And
Yeah.
they were always in shopping malls, like in between the discount clothing and the nail salon,
Yeah.
right? So very like 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 the average person in St. Louis, Missouri, where I live, they're not going to come see me. I'm a little bit weird. But they would come out of their glamour nails and like, oh, acupuncture, maybe
Yeah.
it was not a stretch for them. Was it the McDonald's of acupuncture? Yes, it was.
Mhm.
Are there people who would respond and get a start with McDonald's of acupuncture? Sure, why not?
Oh, I got
I don't
tons
want
of
to work
referrals
there.
from them. I got
Mm,
tons of referrals. I would
yeah,
get around 20 referrals a month from modern acupuncture down the street from me because they weren't able to treat children. They weren't able to treat pregnancy. They weren't able to treat
exactly.
so many different,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so, is that, coming back to kind of the topic of like, how can we continue to nurture our field? Is that necessary?
Yes. And if somebody
Perhaps.
wants to be the McDonald's of acupuncture, like, okay, cool, tell me more about your vision. And what would you need to make that succeed?
Hmm.
Right? Again, I don't want to work there, but you want to work there? Okay.
I want to share my perspective as
Yeah,
I
please.
came out from a martial arts society. I was practicing Aikido for 20
Mm,
years. And in martial arts, there is just exactly the same name. It's called Mike Dojo. And it's topic that goes all around the world about this quickly set up dojos showing simple tricks, just earning money, and it's all left out. And I want to tell you about Aikido from that perspective because before in the 90s, Aikido was still strongly mystical, and it was there was many aspects that were told that it will work someday. Just work hard, practice, and you will reach that level. But after the era of YouTube and internet, when it really spread out, it was Aikido was so many times it was like torn out of these mystical things, and just it was shown that it's not working really in the terms of fighting, you know. So and this is exactly what I am looking at Society of Acupuncture and seeing the similarities between the early stage of Aikido and acupuncture right now. So once I was watching the documentary about Katori Shintoryu Kenjutsu, and there were this sentence that really stays with me all the time. There has always been few. You know, this is how I see it. In the end, the only people who has strong, solid skills can survive on the market. You only protected your business but by what you can do, how you can treat people, how much you can help. This is everything for me in it. So this is how I see it.
I mean, so is it perhaps then a good thing that we have a high attrition rate in our field?
You know, I don't think high attrition is great. I think appropriate attrition is good.
Is it appropriate right now?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I think entirely too many people go to acupuncture school without looking around the corner to see what's there. It's like, oh, acupuncture school, yeah, it'll be great.
Yeah.
But they don't go and talk to any acupuncturists first and find out, hey, what's your life like? Do you own your own home? What kind of car do you drive? How new is it? Do you have money in your bank account? How much do you put into retirement every month? These are really good questions that every student should be required to
Yes,
go
sorry to
out and
interrupt
ask an
you, but
acupuncturist.
it was really the aim for me to buy good car to show people that I can earn good money doing acupuncture. You know,
Yes,
I treat it as my personal business card. You know.
yes.
That's amazing.
Oscar, I love it.
I mean, honestly, though, I feel the same way. I purchased my first home a few years ago in the US market, especially the Colorado market, extremely expensive. And people ask me all the time, are you making money doing this? And I'm like, hey, I just bought my house.
I just bought my house.
Like, that's a $500,000 US I was able to throw down on a house. Like,
Hmm.
how good am I doing? That's an answer for you. I think it's this,
Hmm.
I feel the same way. I
Yeah.
treat my house like a business card, Oscar. Totally. But like, that goes back to the admission into the educational system, that there is zero requirements for people to be like, okay, before you come in, we just want you to do a little bit of fact finding. Or, like, I don't know. I mean, again, they need people in the door, though. It's a business model itself.
It's one of the issues with the schools being for profit. They're, do you have the money or do you qualify for a loan?
Yeah, really,
And
that's it.
that's mostly what they're looking at, I think.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty low bar
It
and
is.
ultimately
It is.
not that helpful for the profession.
Yeah.
So again, some attrition. I know we like to wring our hands about it and we're very concerned about it, but I haven't done any research. Like, what's the actual percentage of people not practicing after 5 years compared to attorneys that aren't
Mm.
practicing after 5 years, compared to accountants, compared to emergency room doctor? I don't know. Just how does it compare with other professions? I don't know because I haven't looked at it.
Yeah, same.
That, that would actually be a good thing to go ask ChatGTP about and do
I agree.
a
That was
little
my first.
analysis because
That's my
I
first.
mean, is it a problem? Is it not? I don't know. I can tell you this. When I graduated, and this was 25 years ago, um, the national exam was given twice a year, once in San Francisco, once in New York. Not like today where you just go to a testing center. And and so there'd be a lot of people that would go and some people from other schools in Seattle went. And after the test, I'm hanging out by the pool with a friend at the hotel because we're going to go out for dinner. And there was this woman who was a classmate of hers who was bragging. She was bragging about how she partied all through school. She hardly read any books. She talked her way into the dyslexic test so she'd get more time and it would be easier. And I thought, you've got the same license as me?
Hmm.
It was very disturbing. Now, the good news is I ran into her about 5 or 6 years later. She actually walked into my clinic.
Wow.
I know. It's like, oh, you're you, right? And she only stayed with Chinese medicine for like a year or two.
Yeah, I mean,
And,
serious.
and then she got into buying, fixing, and flipping houses. And she was making great money. And it was like such a match for her personality. It was like so good for her. She found what was good for her. So just because people wash out, I mean, maybe it's bad. And certainly these days when you got debt, that adds to the suffering. But
Hmm.
maybe you go find what you're better suited for.
Mm,
Maybe. I don't know.
yeah. I
I
mean,
don't
what do
think
you
it's
think,
always
James?
bad.
I mean, you're seeing these I call them kids when they're still in school. I realize they are not kids, but
I know.
when the kids are in school, they're so excited. And then they get midway through their education here. I actually, so fun fact, James, I stopped teaching students who were in their second year of schooling here in the US. I stopped teaching them completely at the school downtown because they were so angry that it made me sad to see them. They were
Mm.
so angry. So I only teach them at the beginning when they're fresh and excited, and at the end when they're excited to get out. That's the only time that I see them.
What? Okay, so what were they angry about?
Oh God. I mean, I'm sure, James, we could have a whole conversation about this, but like they are angry about so many different things. I mean, they're angry with the poor administration. They're angry with how their money is being spent in the schools, the level of education and how poor and low the level is. I mean, I think if they had a teacher like you, James, like it would be a lot different, but they're standard teachers that are coming in there like I go in to teach these classes downtown. I get paid $23 an hour. 23 USD. That
Mm.
is the same as being like working a little overtime at Walmart here in the
Not
US.
much. It's about
No,
£10 an hour, I think.
maybe
It's
like
minimum
11,
wage.
12. So, and as an acupuncturist, right? If I take 1 hour of my time in the clinic, I'm making, about 115 USD or more, depending on how much you're charging an hour. For
Mhm.
1 hour of work there, I get paid $23. So they're getting teachers who are either afraid to go into the workforce or just burned out and not wanting to be in clinic. So they're not really there to teach. They don't want to answer questions. So the level of education is very low. And then there's this compounding fact that I hear from so many people around the world, but that they went into this education expecting a hands-on experience, like Oskar, what you were saying, to feel the meridians, to palpate, to understand the points, to really needle and really connect. They went in thinking that our medicine was more esoteric than the education gives them, because to your point, Michael, they're teaching for the test,
They
right?
have to they have to pass the test.
They have to, well, and the accreditation here in the US depends on it, right? They have
Yeah, they
to,
have to pass the test.
the amount of people that graduate from the school that start in the school equals the accreditation continuing accreditation of the school system. And so for
Exactly.
those variety of reasons, they are so angry. They are mad, upset. Do you see this, James, in your system as well?
Not
Um,
angry,
you
but
guys, I have
exhausted.
to, I hate to interrupt here, but I've
Yeah.
got to get ready to go get on a podcast.
Oh, no problem.
Oh,
And thank you so much
yeah.
for hopping on. We're going to wrap up here in 10 minutes anyway. So,
Okay.
Michael, thank you so much for hopping
So I'm,
on.
I'm going to jump, but thank you everybody for your time and thoughts and heart. And um, Maya, thank you for bringing us together.
Yeah.
And I think there's good work to do here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Thank
Michael,
you.
I would check out these other three members if you can, because I think they would be all very interesting on Qiological.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All
Just
right.
put that out there.
Bye.
Cheers
Bye.
for now.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, just to kind of wrap it up, because I know we ended up starting a little late, but what do you see that as well, James, in the education?
I don't necessarily see anger. What I see is students that are really tired. So the situation for our college, I think, is a little bit different. So we do cyclic learning, so they have repeated information that then gets layered over and over from the start, starting from the very basics, from yin yang, then five elements, moving from that to what they are, to Zhang Fu, and then into patterns, and then working through that. And it's very, very difficult. And I think the big thing is they don't realize how difficult it is, and they get very, very tired. So each year, I remember feeling like this. By the end of each year, you feel a little bit more tired. And by halfway, I know that they are tired right now, even at the beginning of their third year. And I remember the last block, so the very last block, I taught this same class in block 2 out of 4. So this is the last 8 weeks of their whole 3 years. They were more fed up with learning more theory, and I think it was because they were tired, and they wanted hands-on. They wanted to learn how to needle points. They wanted to know how to do moxa. They wanted to know, and they knew that I do all these things. So they gave me a huge, huge list of everything that they wanted me to do, and I think they were just so tired and exhausted. They were kind of more fed up in that kind of way. And by the way, they do business. There's a business module in their third year that they all have
That's
to do.
amazing. Yeah, we don't have much here. It's not much.
So, and they don't get a student loan either. They have to do it out of they have to be working a second job. They'll be
Wow.
working their main job while they're doing their education. So that plays into a factor of why they are so tired as well. I do. I think that the training that I received, it was hands-on. I got more hands-on when I left and studied Tween R, which is a natural way to lean on from that into something like Japanese acupuncture. I have to say that since our last conversation we had on your channel, there's now going to be a whole day of palpation, which is right towards the end of the second year, preparing them for their final year
That's
in the
amazing.
clinic. And I'm actually setting it up so they can so it's specific for in the clinic. So it's more for channel sinew and MSK work, but it gives them a hands-on approach which will be useful for them. I wish that I received it in that way, and I understand why, and I'm not complaining at all. I don't know whether that is universal
No.
with most places of learning, but the other thing, sorry, I know we haven't got long, is that during my training, and it's the same because I trained in the same place, is we needled for the first time, I think 6 or 8 weeks in, and that continued throughout the whole of, and we try and make sure everything is unified. I received an email last night with a whole rundown of everything that was taught for needling technique. So we try and stick to everything. And also I noticed that one thing was about how to hold the needle, and it said this way, not this way. So I think it's because it's some of what I do has filtered through. So sorry, City College, if you're watching this, that's me because I'm doing it this way.
Yeah, love that.
But you understand that. Everyone
Yeah.
here understands why. So I know that what that's come from, not from not from Paul. Paul, if you're watching this, that's probably come from me.
But I
yeah,
think that's a really good point, James, that like we need, I mean, I think the one thing that I've gotten as a little bit more of, because honestly, this chat is way more for my curiosity than for anybody who watches my channel, is I want to know, kind of like to your point, Michel, like I want to know how I can do my job better. And I want to know and have a better understanding of internationally what's really going wrong. I don't think I can fix those problems because I'm not James. I'm not going to work in the schools full time. We need more teachers like James in the school. Is my very first thought, is that we need to kind of like get more doppelgangers, you know. But I mean, I think that the next best thing is that we need more people like each one of us who are really consistently being consistent about creating community, having that 31st, that 32nd Congress, you know, like consistently showing up, I think is the only thing that we can really do right now, is consistently show up and consistently give people more options. I mean, what do you guys think?
And cooperate.
Yeah. And well, yeah, and to have more situations like this where we're actually talking. Maybe there's no answer, but what do you think, Michel?
I think also this is not only related to our practice and our work. I also see this with my high school students, and talking with other teachers. Like, it's very hard for us from all the different generations. It's like we're in the middle of a breakthrough in a cultural, economical, how we approach to knowledge is very different now that we have all these resources and every bits of information and small videos, very practical, very into. Otherwise, I just jump and scroll and scroll and scroll, something to stimulate my brain. So it's very difficult now to approach students with a traditional method. Like, I learned Aikido, and it's very difficult for me to translate all the things that I understand with my brain, with logical, with all the foundations, and then translate into practice. And for me to start at 45, 40 something, to start to develop a different approach of learning that is experience first, trust your body and trust your partner and trust the movement, and be comfortable being uncomfortable in certain situations, and letting go is very, very hard. And you know that I watch American football, and I was listening to this quarterback that is Tom Brady, that is like this big figure, and he was addressing this same problem with nowadays quarterbacks. They are not developing them in terms of understanding the game. They are just very talented, very athletic, with a lot of skills, and they just drop it into the game without actually understanding how to read and how to have a strategy and lead a group of people. So this is for them, and they are very talented, very quick, they do amazing things. But the consistency along the years is like, where are those guys? Those stars are like starting to get prone to injuries or other. Yeah. So I think the development of people is a very hard area. I think everybody in different environments are questioning the same things, like how to get the message received, how to deliver a more interactive, this experience of things. So I think we are in a breakthrough, and in contrast more if it's a medicine that has been taught in a traditional way, and we contemporary people, we learn it from an institution, a structured approach, not like the traditional family teacher to a student, very close ways, and just trusting that the teacher knows how to get to a point, and then you develop your skills during time. We are not used to that. We get very frustrated. Like for us today, not knowing what happening, if we are going to have the Zoom or not, we start growing in anxiety and being uncomfortable. While other people in other places, like, you do it over the day or something. Yeah? I think we are in the middle of something that is happening, and we have to be open it to receive it and find how the water flows and be on the current, and eventually we will figure out. Be patient.
I mean, I think, first of all, sorry again for starting a little late. That's a whole boundary conversation that we can have on my behalf. And I think another thing that really comes to mind, and to maybe close out this conversation, just because I know it's a little late there and for Europe for you guys, is that, they've had this system of teaching people from person to person for thousands of years. And just because we have this new technology, is it necessary to change that system, or do we, and if it's not necessary, how can we adapt that same person to person learning for these people who are coming up who have really short attention spans and are scrolling through, I mean, and I think that's something that I'm consistently asking myself. And I think it's a really good point to bring up, Michel, that and I don't know if I have the right answer to it yet, to be quite honest.
But at the same time, the technology help us to, like, for me, I just went to Instagram and see what pictures show me the feeling that I was looking for in terms of Japanese acupuncture, and I jump into you.
It's true. It's true, So, I mean, that's the same way I found Oskar. My feed is pretty dialed in, by the way. Thanks, Oskar.
And also because you are willing to share things. And a lot of people, even me, sometimes I feel like very jealous about all the work that I have put on, and the time and the money and the effort and the ups and downs to just simply just go around and just take it. It's hard for me. It's not like, knowledge must be for everyone. It's a fight for me.
Yeah. I mean, but I think that's the thing that all of us on here, including Michael, who had to step off, is that we're all spreading it in our own ways, and really thankful for all of you guys doing that. So thank you. Please continue to.